As we wrap up season 2, I want to leave you with one of the most important leadership lessons I have learned in fundraising. I talk about it often. Major gifts are never a solo effort. Yes, executive directors, they lead fundraising, but they should never carry it alone. One of the greatest assets your organization has isn't your annual peel, it's not your gala, it's not your golf tournament, it isn't even your donor database. It's your board. The question is, are they helping you build donor relationships or are they sitting on the sidelines? In this episode, we're talking about how major gift leaders engage their boards to build authentic donor relationships that inspire transformational generosity. That is our focus on this season 2 finale. Let's huddle up. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to tell you about something I am incredibly excited to share. Over the years, I've coached hundreds of nonprofit leaders who all had one thing in common. They knew major gifts were essential to achieving their mission, but they lacked a clear roadmap for building the donor relationships that make those gifts possible. That's why I created the Major Gift Leadership Cohort. The inaugural cohort begins September 10th and runs through October 29th. Over 8 weeks, we'll work together in a small group coaching environment to build a practical, relationship based fundraising system you can implement immediately. The program includes exclusive video curriculum developed specifically for the cohort, weekly live coaching sessions, practical implementation assignments, a private community of nonprofit leaders, and a personal one on one coaching session with me. Enrollment is limited to just 15 participants, so every participant receives personalized guidance and support. Right now, you can join the priority access list. You'll receive early notification when registration opens. 1 full week of exclusive access before registration opens to the public, and an exclusive 10% early registration discount. To learn more and to join the priority access list, visit thefundcoach.com or click the link in the show notes. If you're ready to make this the season you build a sustainable major gift program, I'd love to have you join us in the Major Gift Leadership Cohort. Hey, welcome to another episode of Huddle Up with Mark, the Fund Coach. I'm Mark Duncan. Yes, this is the final episode of season 2. What does that mean? That means that in for the month of August, it is the end of July, month of August, there will be no new episodes, and the new episodes will return after Labor Day. But don't worry, if you are on my email list, you will continue to get the newsletter. I will probably be sharing some encore episodes of the podcast for you to enjoy, and looking forward to being back with you in September. But right now, I want to talk about this very important topic. This is a topic that gets a lot of attention, especially when I bring it up on other platforms. And this whole idea of boards and whether or not boards should be fundraising and what does that look like. And in this case, right, one of the biggest mistakes nonprofit organizations make at the very beginning is telling your board members your job is to raise money. Sometimes people will go after board members because of whatever they believe is true about that board member. And it could be because they have capacity or they know people that have capacity or they're connected, that the expectation is that you're going to have them raise money. And if you're just telling them that when they come on the board, I would not recommend that. You certainly want to manage those expectations, during the recruiting process so that your board members understand what to expect and what is expected of them when they are on the board. But for many board members, when they hear that they have to raise money, especially if they hear it for the first time, it creates immediate anxiety, partly because they didn't expect that. And two, they're not sure exactly what that means and how that's going to work. And many nonprofit leaders think that it's just going to magically happen. Oh, this person knows folks with money. And they think, board members think that fundraising means like asking friends for checks. I hear this often. I do a lot of training with boards. And uh, prior to starting the training, I hear board members talking about, oh, I'll get Charlie to give because I gave because Charlie hit me up. And it seems like there's this very transactional engagement between friends. And yeah, that does happen, but it's on a much smaller scale. You know, you're usually selling tickets to a gala or asking them to participate in a 50-50, whatever that may be. But it really isn't, we're not talking about, the major gifts that you need for the organization. So when board members, feel like that they are expecting to ask their friends to write a check, many of them become disengaged. And no wonder. No wonder. I mean, instead, here's what you need to be thinking about. You have to invite them into relationship building. See, this isn't about them asking for money. This is about them leveraging the relationships that they have with people that meet a certain criteria. I talk about this all the time. Link, interest, and ability. Link to your mission, interest in your organization and what you're doing, and the ability to make a significant gift. And all you're asking them to do is to door open for you to make those connections. Board members open doors, they share stories, they can host introductions, they can attend donor visits with you, they can express gratitude on behalf of the organization. And that's very powerful when it's coming from a board member. But fundraising is a team sport, and there's a partnership that happens between the executive director and the board. And when you set the tone as an executive director for this kind of engagement, you will see success. See, boards rarely become relationship focused by accident. They follow the example of the executive director. So if the executive director is, out there, raising dollars, well, without a conversation, but them taking initiative, they may go out and they may start soliciting people, but probably not in the right way. And they may not even be communicating with you that they're talking to someone. And they may be going to talk to someone and asking them to give $500 when they have the capacity to give 5,000. So without preparation, research, all those things, you risk the continuity that should be in place when you have others out there actually asking people for dollars. Now, to be able to manage this process, that is why focusing on relationships is so important. And if you avoid donor relationships as an executive director, your board is going to do that too. If you're only talking about financial goals, your board's only going to focus on the dollars. And I know that happens often in board meetings where, because it is a numbers game, You go to a board meeting, you're prepping for the board meeting, you're looking at financials, you're looking at this report, that report, and it is usually about metrics and dollars, which is very important. But you cannot forget to talk about the importance of relationships and their role in those relationships on behalf of the organization. You see, if you consistently celebrate meaningful donor relationships, your board will then begin to value relationships over the transactions. They'll understand this is a long game and not a terribly long game, but that the relationship is critical. And so this is about establishing that kind of culture right off the bat with your board. Yes, the dollars are important. The dollars make what you do as a mission happen. But the relationships are what lead to those gifts eventually coming. Now, building the right board is critical. And I often worry about when I lean into this aspect of it because I know board members are watching or listening to this podcast, but I'm going to be brutally honest here. A lot of boards aren't necessarily the wealthiest people. They may be the most engaged, but they may not be the wealthiest. They may not know people who are wealthy. So when you're recruiting board members, it's important to think about these particular qualifications. One, of course, they need to care deeply about the mission. I call these the four C's, right? They need to care deeply about the mission. They themselves should have the capacity to make a major gift. That's the second C. The third C is that they are connected to others who have the capacity to make a major gift. And last, they need to be comfortable introducing you to those people who they know that can make a major gift. So they've got to be well connected. They've got to be curious about people, willing to make those introductions, comfortable telling the story, and they have to be excited to learn. They've got to, especially if they're new, they've got to be excited to learn everything they can about the organization and what you do. And you need to prepare them so that every board member is essentially speaking the same language when they're out there on behalf of the organization, building those relationships, not asking, but building those relationships. So, generosity of influence is often more valuable than personal wealth. Yes, you want your board members to have the capacity to make a major gift. They don't need to necessarily be wealthy to do that. If a major gift is $1,000 and up, 1,500 and up, 2,500 and up, you do probably have board members that can make that happen in the course of a fiscal year. But it's important that you are recruiting board members that meet this criteria and that you're recruiting them for commitment and for their capacity. Doesn't have to be significant, but it does have to be there if possible. Now, what do great boards actually do? What do they accomplish? Well, they don't spend all year selling raffle tickets or selling tickets to a gala or trying to fill a foursome at a golf tournament. It's helpful, but they really need to be focusing on helping to build those relationships. So, this is about them introducing prospective donors to you as the executive director, inviting friends of theirs, again, who meet the criteria of link, interest, and ability, to visit the organization with you, hosting small gatherings. And it's just an opportunity to connect, not a gathering to say, hey, everybody pull out their checkbook. That's that's not that's a very transactional approach, and it happens often in the political space. But you want to maximize what you're going to receive from these donors, and the relationship has to be established first, because that maximizes how much you actually will receive. But they can also call donors to say thank you, share stories about the organization within the community. They can participate in those visits, and they essentially become ambassadors of the mission. Notice everything I just said there had nothing to do with them asking for money. We're leveraging their connections. So that is what successful board members do. That's what a good board does. And the other thing that I have to mention here is the amount of time. Let me rephrase that. It's the amount of energy that board members spend on the day-to-day operations of the organization. If you are bringing your board into that, they're going to follow you. And that really isn't or shouldn't be a good use of their time. Because once you invite them in and you start talking about the challenges day to day, well, you're essentially inviting them to provide you with advice and counsel about the day to day. And that's not something you should need them to do. Your board should be operating at the 30,000-foot level. You, as the executive director, if possible, should be operating at about 5 to 10,000 feet. And the rest of your staff is on the ground. When you're up here, you're more strategic, you're forward thinking, you're building relationships, and you're leveraging your board to do that as well. Now, here are 5 things that your board really shouldn't be doing. You shouldn't be pressuring board members to solicit gifts before they're ready, or in as far as I'm concerned, at all. Don't confuse fundraising with selling. Fundraising is about encouraging generosity and inviting people to make an impact, to make a difference in the lives of people that you serve. Selling is a quid pro quo. Selling golf outing, positions, or tickets to a gala, 50-50 tickets. That's selling. Fundraising is not about that. And while I talk about the importance of having donors who have or board members who have capacity, you shouldn't be recruiting them solely on their wealth. They have to be good for the organization as a whole, and their capacity is just part of the package. And if you're going to be asking them to engage in fundraising, don't leave any training for fundraising until it's time to engage in a capital campaign. This happens quite often, where many nonprofit organizations are engaged or getting ready to do a capital campaign, and that's when they start leaning into major gift fundraising. That's a mistake. Major gift fundraising should be part of what you do all year long, year after year. And many organizations don't engage in major gift fundraising until it's time for a capital campaign. And try to keep your board meetings not just focused on the financials, but let the mission inspire the meetings and make sure that you're encouraging your board to introduce you to those people that build those relationships. See, great boards are developed, they're not discovered. And your job as executive director, in partnership with your board chair, is to develop a board, the board that you need, that is going to help you build those relationships with those key people. So your board reflects leadership, just like the leadership that you bring to the table. So here is a thought that I want you to consider. If your board isn't engaged, ask yourself why and be honest with the answer that you provide. And ask yourself this: have you given them clarity? Have you equipped them with everything that they need? Have you modeled relationship fundraising for them? Have you inspired them with a compelling vision? These are all things that you need to consider, because major gift leadership isn't about controlling people, it's about developing people. And that includes your board. So as we close out this season of Huddle Up with Mark the Fund Coach, I want to leave you with one question. What would happen if every member on your board saw themselves not as fundraisers, but as relationship builders? Imagine the conversation, the introductions, the trust, the partnerships, all those things that can come out of that. That's the kind of culture that major gift leadership creates. I hope this has been helpful to you. I want to thank you for spending this season with me. Again, be back in September. Stay tuned for some encore episodes that will be in the weekly newsletter. And I know you probably heard the spot about the major gift leadership cohort. We'll be talking about everything related to major gift leadership, relationship fundraising. And yes, I talk about how to leverage your board in a way that's effective. So if you're interested, sign up for the priority access to the registration, and hopefully I will see you then. In the meantime, know this: two things I want you to know. When it comes to fundraising, the ask secures the gift, but the relationship makes the ask possible. And as always, this fundraising thing, at the end of the day, it's not about the dollars. It's about what the dollars do for the people that you serve. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you next time.